Hello, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. We're going to talk about Bleach, the 1,000-Year Bloodwar trailer, that the first trailer one that just came out. Now I can't call myself a diehard manga reader. I've read maybe between 100 150 series, which on the scale of how many manga there are is not a lot. And by comparison, I've probably read thousands of comic book series and tens of thousands of comics, But Bleach is a memorable series. It's one of my 5 favorites. Well, at least it was until what happens after Ichigo's fight with Yulakora. Okay? A lot of us at that point, I'm not saying it's a majority, I'm just saying a sizable percentage of those who were fans felt that the series began to fall apart there. You had seen some of the issues leading into that arc. Kubo, we know, was getting tired of writing Bleach and tired of drawing it. So you start to see him draw less and less of the backgrounds, particularly in fights, So it kind of showed in the product, which isn't to say Bleach became crappy. It's just after the Yulakora arc, a lot of us were dissatisfied with how it ended. The Yulakora fight. So let's see what this leads into. The movie's due to come out in October 2022. And warning, my comments that follow include full Bleach manga spoilers. So if you don't want to know how it turns out and whatnot, stop here. So let's do a short background. What's Bleach? Bleach is a manga series written and drawn by Kubo, began in 2001 and concluded in 2016, and was published in Weekly Shonen Jump. The main character is named Ichigo Kurosaki, who was a teenager that had the same ghost sensing powers that his family seemed to possess. After he encounters Rukia Kushiki, who is a Shinigami, and accidentally steals her powers, he begins a road of adventure and exploration that was amazing for most of its run. Ichigo's journeys through the world of Shinigami, known as the Soul Society, leads to the revelation he's the son of one of the most powerful Soul Society captains and the daughter of the founding Quincy Yawik, who also happens to be the son of the Soul King, as it turns out. And the Soul King is basically the god of that setting. Ultimately, Ichigo has a final confrontation with his maternal grandfather, and that's the end of the manga, so to speak. I mean, there's like a 10 years later epilogue, but that shows everyone's doing okay, but that's different. So let's talk about the trailer. Now, I'm going to play a chunk of it here first. Sorry, guys. I'm going to mute it, though. So you see the premise going on. The Soul King, the Yawik, the Quincy leader, so to speak, has woken up. He regained his strength, blah, blah, blah. That was in the manga, and they're just telling you what happened, so to speak. And now this first part just shows who's in it, so I'm just going to kind of skip a chunk of this to get to the only like revealing scenes I think that were in here, okay? So you see this showing you who's in it and a couple of flash scenes. And, okay, so one in the middle here, we get, where is it? Let me find it. There we go. Now, this scene here that's about to happen, I'll talk about that later, okay? And then we'll go to the end here. Near the end, right after this scene. And this scene here is significant. So that's the trailer, the parts we've seen of it. Not going to talk more about it. We're not going to play it again. I will link below to it so you can see the full thing and hear the music. So, now if you're wondering why Ichigo looks older, there were some time skips built into the Bleach manga, which I don't know if the anime ever really showed him being older. But for example, before the Fullbring arc and after the Aizen arc, there was like a year and a half to 2 year time skip, right? But they just drawed him looking the same, even though it was almost 2 years later. And I think there's a few months to a year after the last arc to this one, right? So they're finally showing him looking like he's several years old, like he should have looked after the initial time skip. Now, and I've mentioned, on one hand, they don't show much of the storyline in the clip, but on the other hand, I said, you read the manga, you know what happens. And I think the music playing is more theme music for the trailer when you eventually hear it, and not indicative of what the movie's soundtrack will have. Bleach has a rather unique and identifiable set of music and sounds, which if they don't use, most fans will be annoyed, to say the least. There was a teaser trailer maybe 6 months ago that used the Bleach music, okay? And that juiced me up when I heard that, even though have a bittersweet thoughts about this, which I'll talk about later. So there are a couple of things of hints to come. So let's show you one still shot. First one. There's that, which you saw played a little more out in the clip I showed. That's Yamamoto. He's the captain general, or whatever the exact title of all the Shinigami. And in the Aizen arc, he was starting to use the full abilities of his Zanpakuto. Okay? And just when he was going to get serious, because he has the only Zanpakuto you can make an argument with him that showed anything even remotely close to his power was Ichigo's Zanpakuto, which isn't really Ichigo's Zanpakuto, by the way. I'll get to that in a minute. And there's a reason fans called him Old Man Genocide. A large percentage of us did that, okay? You do see his full Bankai in all of its glory in this arc. You know, though at least with disappointment, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the other picture I'll show here, that's Ichigo's his current, what he thinks of as his Zanpakuto. I'm willing to bet right after this scene, like this is Ichigo throwing down with the Soul King, and he gets owned right at the end of this scene. Okay, so now so that's kind of the trailer, right? And there was a lot more in that final arc in the manga than I really think they could do in a 2-hour movie. So my question is, are they just doing 1 2-hour movie? Where's the one? Where's the one? There it is. 1 2-hour movie? Or is that they're going to do a couple of them? Because there's a lot happened, even though it did occur over 9 days. It seems like a lot to squeeze into 2 hours, you know? So, thoughts on the movie itself. Now, I've alluded to a full Bleach manga spoiler, but at this point, if you haven't heard me say anything, I'm going to give my general thoughts. I'm talking about very explicitly things that happened in the manga that one of the reasons a lot of us were dissatisfied with the conclusion. So, and the presumption of my thoughts is only going to be one movie. Okay, so if they do stretch it out into 2 or 3, which I would prefer they do, that could at least offset some of this stuff. Now, and bear in mind, it's been more than 10 years since I read Bleach. And because of my dissatisfaction on how it ended, I never read anything past the Aizen arc ever again for the second time. You know, I reread the beginning of it quite a few times, and everything through Aizen I basically read. Even though I wasn't 100% happy with the Aizen arc either, I thought the Fullbring arc was okay. You know, and by the way, I would recommend reading the manga and watching the anime because Bleach filler. But is one of the few anime ever where the filler is very good and fits within the context of the story. Kubo was involved enough with the filler to say, "Don't do that; it will conflict with my story." You know, so. And the second thing is, you gotta. I mean, people. The first 15 or so episodes of Bleach, it seems like just another Monster of the Week thing. They're really just building character about Ichigo and Rukia and some of the background characters. Bear with it. You'll understand when it becomes Bleach and escalates somewhere around the 15th to 16th episode when the second Soul Reaper shows. When Byakuya shows up. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna spoil it, even though just because it's an awesome friggin' moment that where your expectation of what happened, you're like, oh, and then like it just scales up from there. You know. So now back to my thoughts about this. A lot of us weren't satisfied with how Bleach ended. We thought that Yahweh was basically a less interesting Aizen 2.0. I mean, he achieved his goal by massive manipulations of beings and events, which were unseen except in flashbacks and villain monologue. I mean, the only thing, except with one exception being, because it turns out Ichigo's Zanpakuto was not really Ichigo's Zanpakuto. It was Yahweh, suppressing Ichigo's Soul Reaper powers and pretending to be his Zanpakuto. Yeah. His final power-up, we're back talking about Yahweh, was basically self-reality manipulation, just like Aizen's final power-up was something like that. Meaning he had to be able to manipulate his own powers and abilities to any degree needed. And then he lost by a combination of Ichigo and others hitting him hard enough to disrupt him. And that's basically the same thing that happened to Aizen. You know. Again, we not referring to all Bleach fans. I know some people loved it, okay? But to a silent percentage of us, we just weren't satisfied with the whole nature of the Soul King as well. And further, we felt that the way certain top level Shinigami lost just to be like moved off screen, and they were replaced by new even topper level Shinigami was stupid. Okay? Specifically, Yamamoto should have been involved in the final fight against Yahweh. It should have been him and Ichigo teaming up. Maybe one or two other helps to help. I'm fine with Aizen being brought back for that. If it was like Ichigo in his full power form with his real Zanpakuto, and Yamamoto and Aizen and Urahara, maybe in Kenpachi, if there was 5 of them teaming up against Yahweh, I would have been happy. Okay, but that wasn't what we got. Now, I don't think they are radically gonna change anything in terms of the story in this adaptation. So they're not gonna give us a better ending if that's what people were hoping for. So I'm going into this not expecting my dissatisfaction how Bleach ended to change. So I'm just gonna take what enjoyment I can get from it because it's clearly gonna be animated very well. My number one most anticipated event is seeing Yamamoto's Bankai in its full form. Okay, it's insane. His Bankai it's probably my favorite moment or scene in Bleach, meaning the manga. My second favorite. My favorite is Ichigo and Byaku's second fight. That's one of my favorite anime fights of all time and favorite manga fights of all time. But the second was seeing Yamamoto pull out his Bankai. The thing, Yamamoto's Zanpakuto release command distinguished as release all creation to ash. Aizen beat Yamamoto not by outpowering his Bankai or whatever, but he intelligently turned his own power against him. Yahweh beat Yamamoto not by intelligence, but by the worst power in anything like ever. And fans of Naruto, who now within the Boruto era, could attest absorption and negation abilities, which writers like to throw into anything, whether it's comics or manga or movies, sci-fi abilities, just because they can't write people doing intelligent, creative things to be their opponents. They just give them like a shield or an absorption ability or a negation ability, and that lets them beat their opponent. And fans hate it, honestly, when that stuff happens. I mean, when Yamamoto's Bankai is empowered, it literally evaporates all the moisture in the whole Soul Society. Now, number 2 is we're going to finally see Ichigo's actual powers under his own control. He finally gets his real Zanpakuto, which turns out to be what we used to call his inner hollow. That's right. Zanpakuto Ichigo, the Zanpakuto Ichigo had was actually his Quincy powers, with Yahweh pretending to be his Zanpakuto in order to suppress Ichigo's actual Soul Reaper powers, or something like that. Because honestly, how many times I read and reread the sequence, it seems like a shaky explanation. Though it does put into context all those conversations that what looked like hollow Ichigo kept having with Yahweh masquerading as Ichigo's Zangetsu. And he kept saying, he's going to be mine someday. And people were misinterpreting that negatively. So, but it was actually positive that his real Zanpakuto is going to get out of the suppression. Now, the third most anticipated event by me is that we get the anime conclusion of the series, which honestly, it'll have way more artistic details than the manga did after the Urukoa arc fight. And so we'll actually see a lot of details and stuff in the background that'll make it look really cool. So you'll get a visual improvement over what happened in the manga. And the other thing I'm hoping will be in this movie, the movie will change things just so slightly and not toss away the older characters we love the way the manga did, even if it's just they do more to support the outcome and not participate in it. So my final thoughts, I know the video is running long. I have a feeling that I will enjoy this movie, but in a bittersweet sense. I won't feel any great satisfaction in Bleach ending other than I got to see it end, and I won't want more Bleach after this, which you should, by the way. If anything that's great entertainment, even if it's perfectly concluded, you should feel like you want more. That's how it should be satisfying to the point that you feel like you want more. Not that you're going to get more or they're going to make more, but it should finish so well that you say, I'd like to see more, even though I know it's done. It should give you that sense of wanting to be immersed in the setting. Comment down below if you have any questions for me about this video. Please share your thoughts. Share this video if you enjoyed it. Like if you like. Dislike if you dislike. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My name is Matt. This has been Unbearable 73. Have a nice day. Somewhere over there. I'll give you the Vulcan hand salute. And I am out of here.